Okay, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for coming to today's workshop on Introduction to SPSS. It's our very first workshop that we're delivering from the Methods Hub here in the Faculty of Social Sciences. And as you probably know, we've got a series of workshops lined up that on quantitative data analysis. So these are introductory workshops, so we're not assuming any basic level of skills in SPSS or even statistics. So I'm very pleased to introduce our lecturer for these workshops, Mr. Dean Hay. Dean has been delivering these workshops for us previously, and he's a very good course instructor. So I'm delighted that we're starting off this series. I'm sorry this first workshop had to be postponed from a few weeks earlier, but we're catching up. We're putting in the extra workshops to cover. So as you probably know, we this one and the subsequent one in is it 1 week's time?
1 week's time.
In
yes.
about 1 week's time is covering Introduction to SPSS. And then the subsequent ones are looking at longitudinal data analysis with SPSS and aggregate data analysis. And in the new year, we'll be covering slightly more advanced modeling topics, quantitative data modeling topics using the R package. So as a result of attending these kinds of workshops, you get familiar with both SPSS and if you're interested in Excel and in R as well. So without further ado, I will leave in Dean's capable hands.
All right. Well, thank you, Taryn. Great. Well, thanks everyone for coming. So we're gonna just dive right into this and then get started. As Taryn introduced this for I want to say for the upcoming 4 weeks, we'll be doing 4 topics. We'll be doing univariate variables, we'll be doing bivariate variables, and then we'll be doing longitudinal, and then we're doing aggregate data. So these are the 4 sections that covering up for the next 4 weeks. And then entering into spring 2024, we'll be doing longitudinal data later on, and then we'll be having access to R2. But for now, we'll be focusing on doing SPSS. These are the workshops for the 4. So there are 4 sessions. We'll be doing well, the first 2, which is today and next week, we'll be doing intro to survey data in SPSS. I'll get you set up. Basically, we'll be using SPSS, and then that we can get access to through Hong Kong use information resources. We'll Google together, and then we can get that set up. I think that's the best way for me to lead you on for these coming sessions, because there are a lot of, like, for me to prepare these workshops, it's not like I'm being handed out lecture slides and then things are ready to go. I pretty much have to do exploration myself. So I guess, I Googled, and then I did my research and was able to put together this. And then the last session, analyzing aggregate data in Excel. You don't necessarily have to use Excel, but you can. You could also utilize SPSS. So there's no restriction in terms of using which type of statistical software per se. I mean, I honestly, to be honest, I use Stata probably 95% of the time. SPSS, I'm using it on R. I really use it, but I took a course when I was in grad school doing I think it's a multi-level modeling class I was taking. So I used R, but I just have to learn it for the semester. But it doesn't matter, because oftentimes my professors who taught me, they oftentimes have 2 sets of data packages available to us anyways. Like, there's R, there's SPSS. And in today's data world, I mean, there are oftentimes, I'll show you a bunch of data resources for you to explore too, mostly from the US setting, because that's where I was being trained as a flight economist. So I'll show you that, but this is also a learning curve for me, because I'm using UK data service, and then which is I won't say excellent. I mean, but a lot of things are shared common knowledge anyways. So we'll get to see that. So like I said, these are the 4 topics that we'll be working on, and then the let's see if this thing works. It does work. Okay, excellent. So workshop essentials. I came up with this because this is pretty much everything that we need for the coming 4 weeks, and also in the spring. Here's how I would actually put it. When I was actually working on these workshops, I was telling myself, I wish this were something like we we had done like when I was in grad school. I wish this was something that I was being prepared with. Like, as all of you know, undergrads or graduate school at both PhD level or master level, these data skills are not necessarily honestly being taught in a classroom setting on an everyday basis. It's something that cannot be taught. I must admit, you have to practice. Like, the instructor's role, like my role, is going to lead you into this field. I'll show you what to do. But I can only show, let's say, one example, two example, or a couple of them. But I can't, like, let's say, equip you with all the tools that you use, like every single coding, for example. So that being said, these are the tools that I think are going to be necessary for the workshops, and also for many of you are current PhD students, some of you are master students from different disciplines, some of you are undergrads. Excellent. And wherever you're starting from, this will take you a very long way. I mean, at different levels. I mean, it's not like if you're at undergrads and if you're a master at PhD, this workshop cannot be universally applied. That's not true, because you can use it differently. I mean, my impression is that with this, for example, I'll start from this using IBM SPS stats for research methods thing. This textbook itself, I think it can go as deep as you want it to be. It also can go as brief as you want it to be, like depending on what projects you're working on. I have a similar textbook that's for the purpose of using Stata. I have to go back to it often enough because I keep forgetting. And then even for some of the basic coding tracking path, for example, I have to go back repetitively just to make sure I remind myself where I got started and everything. So these fundamental textbooks, including econometrics, I'm sure you're familiar with that. If you are doing this quantitative analysis, that's what I do for a living. You have to go back to the basic econometric textbook over and over again just to review some very basic concepts and know what expression is, what noise is, what error term is. Let's just keep going on. One of my everyday habits these days is to log in Twitter. I mean, it just changed to X, so I have to kind of keep an update on the very basic things. So basically, this is what we're gonna get started. We will use two things for this series of workshops. One, we'll follow through this UK data service. Okay, there's no registration needed. Everything you do, it's going to be every time that we get started. I register an account, but I don't think it's actually necessary because it doesn't record my progress whatsoever. So every time I'm starting back up on this, I'm actually starting from fresh. So you see what I'm talking about once you started logging on this, okay? And then the textbook, you should have access to that from a variety of disciplines. I mean, by saying that, I mean, you can Google it, and then I'm sure you guys have ways to get your PDF documents, electronic version textbook. I mean, I have a desktop myself because I keep using it. I think I have the 7th edition, but electronic edition I have is the 7th. I was able to download it from, I want to say, maybe somewhere else when I was a student. I couldn't remember, but I was able to find it from my Dropbox. So I have it accessible. But I don't think I'll use much of the Wagner textbook for this job, just because I don't think I'll have time to work on that. The UK data service thing has a lot to offer, and then if we can go through that in the next couple of workshops, that's, I want to say, more than just enough. And then you will definitely be very well prepared. I mean, not because of me, but because of the materials prepared by this well-established UK data service. And they also link data sets to the US setting, SCPSR, which is part of the University of Michigan thing. I was applying to a restricted data set last night through ICPSR. So, I mean, they are all this data world itself is all interconnected. So, statistical software, SPSS from SPSS from HKU. Quick question: have you all gotten access to SPSS before, or you haven't gotten it at all? Can we do a quick raise of hands to show me how many of you haven't gotten access to SPSS yet? So, okay. So most of you have that on your laptop. Excellent. Okay. Well, I can show you really quick. It's pretty easy now that we are connected at HKU. I think you don't need to log into Cisco, blah, blah, blah. I had to log into Cisco when I was setting this up at home. So because I don't have HKU network at the time. So that's it. today's data workshop, data set for today's workshop is going to be this quarterly labor force survey, January to March 2015 one. A very good one to get started for DataNet. Some of you may find it too straightforward or simplistic if you are at the PhD level or advanced master level, but I still think it is going to be very helpful to help you brush up on basic concepts and modelings, and also just to get yourself familiar with, where to get started from SPS. There are two ways to do SPS or data analysis. You can either click and click, basically point and click. That's kind of like, what the UK Data Service course portal is going to do, or you can code if you like that kind of thing. Okay, similar to Stata, which is what I do every day. I guess we code a lot, and we also sometimes point and click just to find the coding. But I have to admit that for Stata, we Google a lot, 95% of the time, because you don't know all, and then I'm not going to ask any colleague because that's my job. So I have to Google testing. I visit a lot of forums. Basically, I spend a lot of time working on things myself. And then these days, I think the publishers require any published papers accompanied by your data profiles, do files, for example. So we find it a lot user-friendly to replicate. And then when you replicate, you learn a lot of the coding. But everybody codes so differently. So you always learn something new. Okay. So which is what makes this I guess data coding process fascinating in a way, if you like that kind of thing. Okay. But I do think this is kind of a necessary tool for social science in general. Like I teach both at the Faculty of Social Science and also the Faculty of Business Economics. The course I teach there is called Business Econometrics, but basically it's econometrics. It's just a fancy way because I have to develop a product for that, and then because it's business school, we charge them more, so we have to make them feel like we give them more. But anyways, fundamentally it's about the same. Okay, so the soft skill is that we will go through a lot together. Okay, like I will share a lot of resources that I found online that's helpful to you. Also, I found from HKU and also a lot of Columbia libraries. That's where I was educated, so I still have access to a lot of things. So I get everything from Columbia Library too. I'll share with you, and then but you have to get organized. So otherwise, you're going to lose track. Just like this past week when I was trying to put together this workshop, I find I was able to download maybe anywhere between 13 to 15 resources, but I kind of like narrowed them down to 7 pieces that I think that are extremely helpful for this workshop beyond. But I have to get them organized, put them into a week 1 workshop folder. Otherwise, you're going to lose track. I have I pay Dropbox every year, pretty costly. No one's going to reimburse me for that, just to get organized. So whatever computers I get to, I have, I'm sure you do too. You have a few laptops that you work on. So get organized starting from week 1 and be consistent. The reason I say be consistent because you're going to forget if you don't keep working on this. Okay, this is a 4-week, I want to say, not marathon, but a 4-week process. If you want to get something out of these workshops, you want to be consistent. If you come, I don't mind if you come 1 week or skip the 2nd week whatsoever. It's just like I don't have a way to, let's say, make up sessions for you. Even if you are one of my semester-long students, I couldn't do that for you either. So you have to be responsible for yourself, and then I'll show you what to do. But it is important that you want to keep it going for 4 weeks, and then use the lunch hours, like 12 to 2:30 each week, to get the most out of the sessions. Talk to your classmates, talk to me, talk to yourself, and then we'll help each other. Like I said, I'm not, I want to say, the best expert in SPSS. I probably can call myself like I want to say a quasi expert in Stata, but not in SPSS. But this is something I am picking up on. I guess step by step. I've taught the sessions in the summer. This is my 2nd time teaching it. Very different because I'm using a completely different resource. I did not use UK Data Service at the time. I was primarily using this thing called this textbook, and also its accompanied series of data sets. But I am using something different now. But I feel like it's probably an improved version of teaching. So that being said, that's it. Today, my goal is that we'll run through these 5 topics if we can. I think we can, given you are mostly prepared, so I think we can do that. And then for the first two units, I probably have to just talk a little bit more. But starting from the third unit, we're gonna have the data sets, and then you're gonna get them in, and then you follow instructions from UK Data Service and do it yourself. And I kind of will become the tutor role in a classroom setting. So I think we should be able to get through these 5 units by end of day. And then we'll take a quick break in between. So that's it. All right. So the next, I want to say a couple of slides really quick, just to give you a very quick look at SPS itself. If you haven't had access to this before, so you kind of know what does that look like in SPS, or for better, for the sake of showing you, because I was working on SPSS, so nothing fancy. So this is it. This is kind of like the main portal. If you are coding things, you're going to code from here. But if you are going to be, this is basically if you are coding things, that's what you do. This is the log file. And then the data thing is basically, this is the data we download. I downloaded it already, but I won't email it to you. I'll just have you download it yourself. So, which is a wonderful experience in my mind, because you really see where you get the data from, and then we trace back all the way to the origin. So basically, it's not something the instructor passing on to you. It is from, I want to say, the origin of this knowledge powerhouse, if we call it that way. And then we look at them together. These are this data set is very user friendly, because there are not an aggressive amount of information at all. Just, let's say, less than 20 variables. Some of them are easily identifiable, like sex, but they have a different way of coding it, like 1 and 2. I oftentimes code it as a dummy variable 0 and 1, etc. This is age. Well, I don't know what this is, but we'll look at it together. So, and then, so that's the data view. This is the variable view. Okay, there we go. This is the variable view. A variable view basically tells you, the label itself tells you what it is. So in my presentation, I was trying to tell you the same thing, okay? I was trying to tell you the same thing. The data view is the actual data, which is what I just showed you. The rows of cells are called cases, okay? I oftentimes call them observations too, but it doesn't matter. It depends on how you want to call them. The columns of cells are called variables. What does variable mean? It's a logical set of attributes. The variable sex is made up of the attributes male and female. It really depends on how you want to approach this, okay? This is a very fancy way of talking about it, like male and female, we call that attributes. I would oftentimes just say that this is the nature of gender. That's it. 0 and 1, male and female. Okay. So they put it as a logical set of attributes, etc. So it really depends on how you want to. So going back to this, we'll be looking at this over again, because we'll use it multiple times for different reasons. So you wanted to familiarize yourself with what the actual data set is all about to start with. And it's very helpful for you to know what's going on, okay? Because for any for any research data sets that I work on, I would have to spend at least a couple of hours. I want to say on average probably 2 to 3 hours just looking into the data files, understanding what am I looking at, what am I getting at, what am I doing, etc., etc. Otherwise, I'll be losing my mind over the course of doing research, because honestly, even if I have my question, I wouldn't know what I'm doing. Okay, or I would know what I'm doing for the first hour, but for the third or fourth hour, I'll be losing track. Like, my thinking will be deviating from what I was thinking from the beginning. So knowing these variables, what they are going to be tremendously important. Okay, so you have, let's say, the ID number. Oftentimes, this is very important because you want to use the ID number to, if this data set itself is not sufficient for your research questions, then you have to use this data set as a point of contact to connect with other data sets or to match with other data sets. So this is weight, this is gender, but each one of them corresponds to different values. If you click on that, you would be able to see what it actually is. So this is going to be a continuous variable, obviously, because that's the weight. And then if it is going to be a -9 or -8, that's going to be two special cases, which means no answer or do not does not apply. Okay. So that's that, and then gender is going to, if you click on that, that's the nature of theta. You know, you will be able to see the values. These are going to be male, female, and then no answer does not apply. Okay, so moving on, age bands in 5-year interval. Basically, this is already been recoded. Okay, so they are the actual age at the start, but the data specialists, I guess you can call them that, they have already manipulated the data set by looking at how old you are actually, and then putting you into one of the age brackets. Let's say if, okay, this is the way. Well, they made it a little bit more sophisticated in this case, but we can live with that. We can just recode again for the purpose of our research, or to make it easier for us. So they are, I guess the starting point is from, so they don't have anyone who is, let's see if they have, okay, they don't have anyone that's younger than 15 years. So they start from the very first group that's between 15 to 19 years old, and then moving on to 20 to 24. So it's a 5-year gap. Okay, and then each year is going to be associated with a value for that particular year, but the label explains that a numerical value of 3 equals to you are from the age group of 25 to 29, okay? And then 30 to 34, 35 to 39, 40 to 44, 45 to 49, 50 to 54, etc. Moving on, and 70 and over if it's going to be 12, okay? Of course, you have to do discussions for specific values such as 12, because if you're going to be 70 and over, how much, I mean, how much are you over? Okay, that's a question to be examined. But anyways, you wanted to be curious with what the variable is, and then dig into that, because that's kind of like, I want to say, as a professional researcher yourself, then you may want to do this. All right. Similarly, you can look into things like marital status, higher education status. Each one of them represents a different value. So you wanted to study them and make sure you understand what's going on. Okay, and throughout the UK Data Service modules session, you will do quite a few exercises on this too, like, you know, understand what's going on. GCE, does any of you know what is GCE is? I can simply put it as, I want to say, GCE is kind of like a high school level credential. Okay, I know IGCSE because my niece is IGCSE student at the international school here. She goes grade 10. She is taking IGCSE curriculum, so I know it's a high school curriculum, and then she does 2 years of IGCSE, and then she moves on to A level or IB. So basically, that's a high school level credential. Okay, GCE, I think it could be lower, maybe, I don't know, I haven't looked at, but anyways, you can understand it as a high school level credential or equivalent. Other qualifications, no qualifications, 7, don't know. I actually think this is a little bit confusing to me, because look at this. If the value 7 equals to don't know, then no answer is also don't know. So I don't know. I never ever used this data set before. But these are things I want to say just to get you started. You're gonna question them yourself. And then you and I are going to approach it very differently, okay? And that's fine because there's universally no correct or right answer, correct or wrong answer. You're going to make a strong arguments yourself, okay? Basically, whatever you're working on, not everything is going to be exactly as what we have planned. I'm studying a causal question. I wanted to have strictly exogenous variables, but I may not be able to get access to that eventually at all, or the question set up is not going to be driving me anywhere closer to a strictly exogenous variable or a causal question. But I can make strong arguments and I can tell a good story because in real life, not everything going to be strictly causal. You just cannot do that. There are too many, I want to say, external disturbances. That's how I put it. So you just have to make a case, a strong case for that. So anyways, this is just showing you what does the value what does the value mean, number one, and number two, what's the implication? Okay, because they will have a lot of implication when it comes to the point of making justifications or explanations, etc. Okay, so there's going to be a lot of that. All right, so quickly enough, this is ethnicity. If you click on, hold on one second, and this is ethnicity. If you click on this, you will see, okay, there are going to be a lot of different races that are being represented. But anyways, this is going to be I want to say a repetitive process for each and every of the variable. Depending on the questions you are going to be look at, you have to know what they are, okay? It's sounds boring because it is, but it's something we have to deal with as, I want to say, a professional student, researcher, whatever purposes you're doing. So you have to know exactly what's going on, okay? You can't pretend that this is going to be something trivial because it is not. It is pretty significant. Employment status, full-time, part-time, total hours worked. I'm pretty sure there is a question on this that we're going to examine together. We're going to work on that. And then we are going to be kind of like, doing a replication in a way because it tells you exactly what to do. And then this one, I'm not sure what it is. Let's see. Oh, okay. So this is going to be the nature of your occupation. Okay, are you working in a managerial setting? Are you working in do you have an intermediate occupation, like your level of your rank, maybe routine and manual occupation? Are you what is the nature of your job? Okay, or you have never worked, etc. Okay, so this is going to be another a question checking on that. Government, office, region. Let's see what this one is. Okay, so basically, like, where is the location of the job? Okay, this is obviously based in a UK context, southeast. Well, I don't know southeast or southwest, but London. Let's say Western Midlands. If you've been to Europe or London, they probably know this. I've only been there twice, so I don't know what's going on. Scotland or this is what, Northern Ireland. Yeah, you can figure that out. Okay, so this is the this is the government office region variable. And then finally, this weight, this is going to be a separate topic we'll be talking about. Okay, this is going to be the difference between population and sample, and how does weighted sample size make sense. All right, so this is I'm not going to close this. I'm going to just minimize it because we're going to use it again. Okay, so that's the data set. Going back to my slide really quick. I guess, we've done everything. So I guess this can go just click through really quick. So that's it. The variable, the columns, you look at each one of them. We have gone through them in thorough. In the actual example, I wasn't expecting that, but I guess I did it different ways. Okay. Importing and saving data. Well, we'll look at this. I mean, importing files, easy. Basically, you could just double click and then as long as this is SPSS file, you can do that. Otherwise, you can just, import it. But this is so one-on-one level thing. I'm sure you know how to do that. If not, you can ask me and I'm happy to show you. There's nothing that's too simplistic or naive or whatsoever, because, I ask a lot of stupid questions too. So it's not stupid eventually because they are found. Okay. And then a lot of them are questions like my professor couldn't ask, and no one's being embarrassed by that because it is a learning process for everyone. Okay, so there are several data files. I mean, don't get panicked if you have a data file that you don't recognize. Also, I want to say just Google. Okay, Google and see, like SES, for example, all the data files that I have obtained from the public accessible data sets called National Survey for College Graduates. That's what I'm using from the US National Education Statistics Bureau these days. Everything I get is SES. Okay, I don't use SES. What I do is I have to transfer them from SES to Stata. I just have to Google how do I transfer SES data file to Stata. I install the SES transfer file in Data. And basically, it's SSC install SES, and I was able to transfer them. After I transfer them, I have to merge the data set. That's it. Nothing is going to be challenging if you Google, but Google doesn't get you everything. You just have to ask in those forums. Okay. So I probably spend time, going visiting the crazy forums too. There are a bunch of those that you can get access to. But anyways, like I said, the workshop get you started, but it doesn't get you to your destination unless you work on it. And it's not going to be just 4 weeks. It's going to be 40 weeks, or it's going to be 400 weeks, okay, etc., depending on what your eventual career goal is, okay? Well, in terms of data, I guess you would know that this is just an example. The Chinese family panels studies. I know it's popular here. I never used it. I don't know what it is, but just so you know, there's going to be different levels, individual, family, community level, just to help you understand. Basically, this is going to be like a government-sponsored survey. I think it's a University of Indonesia or something like that. They sponsor this survey that you design the individual, family, community level longitudinal data. On longitudinal data, you all know that it's going to be observation for the same subject, but over a period of time, be it short or long period of time. It depends on the data sets. Okay, cross-sectional data basically going to be observations over one time period. That's it. Time series is going to be one multiple. So cross-sectional is multiple observations in one time period. Time series is going to be one data or one set of data that's recorded over consistent interval of time. Okay. With lots of information, like any of this can be very helpful for your research questions, depending on what you're looking at. Okay, there's also mixed cross-sectional data, which is something I learned most recently. Basically, it's going to be I want to say a set of observations you observe in different years, but they are not going to be consistent intervals. Like here, the key is consistent intervals. But what I'm looking at most recently are called mixed cross-sectional, because it's going to be over different time periods, like a survey. Again, the one I'm looking at, but it's a survey looking at 2013, 2015, every 2 years, and then 2017, 2019, and 2021. So that being said, it's going to be it's going to be mixed cross-sectional. So there are, but after all, these are the three sets of three types of data sets that you will have access to eventually. All right, and then this data set has information on many things. But just so you know, lots of data sets, like having to do with social science, because think about the questions that we are studying, okay, or you are studying, it's gonna have to do with one of the topics that have it shared here, like economic activities, education level, outcomes, family dynamics, and then you can define them however you want it to, relationships, migration, health, etc., etc. So there are lots of those. So you can think about, lots of questions. So I think, as you probably already know, either you are an undergraduate student trying to work on a research project, or you're a master and professional doctorate student, you're trying to come up with some really impactful research project. I think the idea of yours is going to be critically important. And then the research methods are important, but they are not so much so, okay? I'm sure you would know how to do them, but the research methods have to be adaptable and also appropriate. It doesn't have to be as complicated as possible, because as you probably have already read the literature, particularly in recent, I want to say, a time span from 3 to 5 years. Sometimes the simplistic research method, like a simple regression discontinuity, for example, gets you published in top journals. Okay, why? Because your story really sells. So that's how I was being trained on too. So like, you know, for my dissertation, I began studying a causal question, but I wasn't able to get to strictly exogenous thing, and then so I basically made up several stories. I mean, I told a great story. It was very well accepted, and then that's it. But eventually, was it a causal question? No, but was I able to defend and then I guess, you know, get people acknowledge what I was doing? Absolutely. And then I think it's getting published too. It's just like so the point is, the question using the survey that you have access to or the variables that you select are going to be the most important ones. Okay, the story that you're trying to tell. Okay. Okay, what is this? This is yeah, this is also the getting organized. So when you're trying to import the SPS and then on your own laptop, just be careful with that. Numeric string. Okay, I'm gonna stop on this because I will talk about it again when I go over the UK data service with you anyways. Okay, so all right, so that's the session slide for today. Basically it's going to be this is just informational, and you can see this as a directory too. Now we're getting into, I guess, you know, I guess, you know, the real essential things of today's class. Okay, I'm gonna find a way. I'm gonna email the department secretary afterwards this thing. You probably have, you know, have similar stuff before, but I'm just going to share it with you because this is from 2012. Okay, 2012, which is 11 years ago. I was taking the SPSS class for the very first time. Okay, applied regression analysis, HUTM 5122. That's how well I remembered it. I took it out from my course profile back then. This is what my professor gave it to me at the time. Okay, remember? So I'm kind of Asian because look at this, how to obtain the data set from the CD. Okay, that's, you know, how old we are. Okay, but I look at how to import data sets in SPS. All of them still apply. I mean, still apply. Okay, not a problem. Other than the CD itself, but we still have access to CD these days. I still purchase. I mean, you can subscribe to the online digital library. There is the Netflix, there is Prime Videos, blah blah blah. But you know, in Hong Kong, Prime Videos doesn't get you everything. Okay, there's a series of things I want to watch yesterday over lunch. I couldn't have access to that, so I bought expensive DVDs and Blu-ray DVDs from Amazon. It's gonna get shipped to me in a week. So that's how I do things. Okay, we guess we all have different ways of doing it. But all of this, import data set and also create a pipe, these are very helpful because this is Qlik. This is basically the point of Qlik. Click on graph, legacy dialog, pi. This is exactly the same thing as what the textbook, the modern textbook from today is telling you. This is not wrong. This is still the same. Okay. So how to create a bar chart, how to create a histogram, how to create a scatter plot, how to organize descriptive statistics, how to obtain the correlations between two variables, to save the output. We click on save. This is still going to be very applicable, even though this is from 11 years ago. Okay. So that's what I'm going to share with you firsthand. And then waiting SPS, these series of documents are going to be, I'm not going to be sharing that with you because I will show you how to get them today by yourself. You can create a folder for week 1, and then you can do that yourself. Okay. And then similarly, we are going to be using this survey data sets, quarterly labor force survey, January to March 2015, unrestricted access teaching data set. You're going to have access to this. You're going to download it yourself, and then you're going to read it yourself, understand what is going on. But there are quite a few question prompts that we'll work on together. Basically, you work on it. I kind of like, you know, work alongside, and then, but I'm not going to be very helpful to you because it's It's really elementary. So you probably don't want my help. You don't want me to be closer to you and disrupt you anyways, because you want to work it on yourself. Okay. But I'll show you where to get it. It's pretty straightforward. What I find very useful actually is this. Okay. It's again from the UK data service thing. This is not like I printed this out, okay, because you can see it. I printed this out November 3rd. When was that? November 3rd was Friday. Okay. All right. I printed out November 3rd because I actually think this data skill glossary thing, of course, I know what is a 95% confidence interval, but I think just putting everything up here is very helpful. Whatever I need, like if I really need to define 95% confidence interval in academic languages, I can just look this up. If you by any chance are not familiar with it, I'm sure you won't be familiar with everything. So we don't have to pretend we know everything. You can go back to this, okay? Like aggregate data, what it really is. So you can look this up, and then bias, you can on this UK data servicing, you can always have access to this. I mean, electronically, but what I find most convenient is that I print them out and then I can refer to them when I need to. All right. And then cases, categorical variables, and then this thing I don't even know what it is. Okay, crop place map. I guess this is a different fancy name, but I actually did not. I haven't come across this yet, but that's fine. Cluster sampling, that I do know what it is. But anyways, this is going to be a lot of things that you can look at and then just help you define what is going on. Okay, control variables, cross-sectional data, but I think whatever level of researcher you are, this whole glossary thing is going to be tremendously helpful, so which I will share with you for sure. Okay. There is one last thing I wanted to share with you before we really get into everything. So this is the teaching data set for this user guide. It's not terribly long, but it's very helpful for you to know what this is. I'm just gonna make it large a little bit. All right. Okay. This user guide, you want to read it before you proceed along to finish up the rest of the practices and UK data service. We'll look at that together. Okay. The data set, what they are, a number of different types of labor force survey data sets. But this one is the first we're using, the sample design. Understand the nature of that. We'll follow through the UK data survey thing, and then we'll do that together. Okay. So basically, you would want to read this user guide too. Okay. So, and then how does the data set weight itself? Okay, not everything that's being connected represents the entire population, but does the respondents, do the respondents to the survey represent the equal chance of selection? Are there any prior selection bias we need to be aware of? And then if so, how do we address the differences, in terms of response rates between different groups? So these are the questions that we will, I guess, examine at different levels. And then also the specifics of the weighted variables, like this one, for example, the original person weight, and then there's also going to be calculated, but how does this calculation become available? What does that really mean? What's the difference? You also want to know something about that. And then we already saw all of them variables just now in the actual data set, but you could also utilize this user guide and then know it a little bit better. For example, this ethnicity 7 category recoded. Okay, what do they mean? Okay, so nominal value, but what is a nominal value? Okay, so these kind of things you can look at it. They are going to be examples. All right, so that's that. The next thing I want to do with you is really get you set up in terms of getting started. So if you don't have SPS as of yet, this is where you go. Okay. Actually, I think this one maybe. Any of this, I think they're all connected to. Okay, this is procedures on installation of SPSS when you have network license version, which is when you are at HKU, I assume. And then this is procedure of installing it, depending on your operating system. Yeah, you can install it, and then this is very self-tutorial. Okay, you could install that, but many of you have already done this, so I'm just gonna, for the purpose of saving some time, I'm just gonna skip this. But like I said, If you don't already have known how to install on this, then ask questions, okay? But if I were to help you, I'm going to go through step by step with you, because there's no magic way that I can just play around, click and get you set up. But this is basically the way to do it. And remember how I did it? I just Googled SPS HKU. That's it. There's no myth. It's very easy. Okay. All right. The next thing I wanted you to work on together with me is you can Google UK data service. Okay. If you do that with me, and then we'll get started. Okay. Accept analytics. Do this. Let's come on to this portal, UK data services. And then we'll get started. Okay. We most likely won't finish all the 5 units today, but that's okay. We are going to be having you work on that later on. I mean, I would hope you actually can finish that today. After class, spend another hour or something, just to be consistent of your progress. That's it. Because it did take me, I want to say, 2.5 hours to complete the entire unit myself. And I know this very well. I mean, I know the data thing very well, but it does take time. I learned something new, but you have to learn it yourself. It's not going to be a lecture only, and then, but you have to get organized and then know this, etc., etc. Okay. Like I said, 2 things I want to share with you. Number 1, you can log in, accept analytics. So there are 2 things. Either the organization of yours, I don't think Hong Kong U is there, which I think is mostly UK. Yeah, right here, UK college or university. You can log in, but I really don't think it's help. You need to. If your organization is not listed, you can register, request a username, and sign in there. I did request a username, and I was able to sign in. But like I said, it doesn't help. So it doesn't save my progress anyways, unless you're trying to get a credential from the UK data service, which I'll admit I don't know how to work on that, or whether it costs money, but I don't think it's going to be super necessary, okay? Because there are a million of this, like, on universal website, okay? You probably know this. I'll just show you. You probably know Coursera. Here, if you Google anything with data, I mean, there are so many of them. You can get, so hold on. Oh, why? Okay, data, okay. Or if I just Google SPSS. What's that? Oh, okay, no problem. So this is IBM Data Analysis Professional Certificate. You can do this. I mean, there are lots of them, okay? And then if you want to brush up on your data skill sets, I mean, there are a million ways to do this too. Data, okay? Analysis, data analysis, okay. I'll just show you really quick. There are, if you Google that, all right, so there are 3,000 results for God's sake. Okay, so I mean, if you are a Python person, or you are a R data analysis with an R person, they are all sponsored by different universities too. So I want to say Penn has a lot, UPenn has a lot, Columbia has a lot, Harvard has many. Subject business, for example. So this is going to be, yeah, so this one, business analytics with Excel, elementary and advanced. This is sponsored by Johns Hopkins. If you really wanted to get some credentials, okay, I'm sure the UK data service thing is an awesome thing. I just don't know too much, so I wouldn't pretend I know, but I would just try to take a course, with a actual institution, if you are okay with it, like Johns Hopkins or University at Buffalo. These are all great schools. I mean, you can take a course with them. Duke, for example, SQL, I think it's popular with business analytics, so you can do that. And then so that's that. PwC is PricewaterhouseCoopers. This is basically, this is going to be like a industry for master students. If you want to look for jobs, and people say, I don't know how to look for jobs, it's so intensive, blah blah blah. You want to get yourself prepared by taking courses like this. Also, unless you wanted to get a certification, which I mean, it's up to you. Then you don't necessarily have to register anything. Given that I'm here, I'm going to show you one other data source if you want to take course, okay? The MIT OpenCourseware. This is also, you can just Google it, called MIT OpenCourseware. There are going to be a zillion courses on economics, statistics, data, SPS, I'm sure are, etc., etc. There are lots of them. So you can do whatever you want, okay? Here too, you can explore courses, you can explore whatever that's necessary to you. And if you want to get a certification, I think this is where you actually can get something that's pretty legitimate. Okay, a lot of people would actually think this is going to be beyond I guess beyond acknowledgeable. Okay, find courses and etc. You can find lots of them. Okay, whatever that you're interested in. If we select, let's say, economics or statistics, let's see, social science. Let's see if we have social science. That's management. That's social urban studies plannings. I mean, there are so many of them. I'm sure there are going to be, I see some of you are from political, yeah, Institute Data System. Okay, I'm gonna unclick urban studies and planning, unclick management. I'm gonna even unclick economics. I'm gonna go over just to data system thing. Okay, well, that's very few. So what about if I click on if I still click on economics, where is it? Right here. Then okay, so there are lots of them. There we go. There is applied. Oh, okay. Now this one, you for your own sake, if you are a grad level student, undergraduate, if you are going to be like that, this is going to be one of the golden courses you want to take, because this textbook is for real good. Applied Econometry, Most Harmless Big Data. The textbook of John Angris's textbook, Most Harmless Econometric, is kind of like a required textbook for everybody. Okay, Most Harmless Econometrics. Yeah, I'm sure you can get PDF documents too. All right, so this one is a required textbook for everybody. That's social science quant research. Okay, you have to read it. I mean, even though it's going to be super boring in a way, but if you find it interesting, it's going to be really interesting. You have to read it multiple times. Okay, if you want to be good in your field and then do well, this is going to be very important. Accompanying that, Josh has another textbook. This one, Mastering Matrix: The Path to from Cause to Effect. This is also this paperback. This is also, I mean, these two textbooks basically, I mean, are going to take you very far away. Okay, whatever, particularly the PhD and master students, if you want to, well, you are here for the workshops, so I assume you're going to do this for your profession. So this is going to be very critical for you. Okay, Matrix: The Path from Cause to Effect. There, you want to read them multiple times. I probably have read each of the textbook for more than just 7 or 8 times. I still have a lot of questions. I just have to go back to them all the time. Okay, so that's it. I'm going to shut up on that. There are a lot. So unless you're going to register, you want to get a credential, you don't have to register at all. So you go over to Learning Hub. This is what we're going to do for the next couple of workshops. But we're going to be able to help each other. And then by being here in this space for continuous amount of time, let's say 2.5 hours, we hope to accomplish them together. Okay, there is no way to save your progress. That's what I would actually have to warn you to get started. So you go over to Learning Hub, click on that. Everyone is there? Are you there? Okay, I can't see your screen, so even if you're playing whatever computer games, I wouldn't see it. Okay, I'm not going to catch you as a kindergarten teacher. Okay, so you go over to data skill modules. This is it. So there's no myth. what I'm doing with you, there's no myth. I don't want to tell you that, oh, I invented this. Look how smart I am, because I'm not. So I'm just like trying to show this, but they are very helpful. Basically, I think I had a lot of fun learning all of this from scratch. I just think it helps me bring back to me. What we're doing today is introduction to survey data. How do we do this? This is kind of like basically everything I just talked about in the past quick hour to get you set up and started, okay? Moving forward, we're gonna do this together, okay? We're gonna watch a couple of videos together, which I think are very essential. If you look at it yourself, watch it yourself, I think you're gonna be distracted by your Instagrams, WeChats, blah, blah, blah. But if you look at it here together, you may not be distracted, okay? Like I said, it doesn't save your progress. Even if you start course, even if you register, it doesn't save your progress. Every time you're working on this, you're starting over. But that's fun, okay? Not a problem, because there's nothing to save anyways, okay? You can, however, screenshots, make them organized, which is what I did. Okay, because I feel like this could be a course thing that I can share in the future, but I think they're always going to be there. So if ever my students wanted to take this, they can just take this, okay? Nothing have to done about that. The glossary thing was what I was talking to you about, okay? I printed out, but you don't have to. There is going to be there all the time. It's even more interactive because you can click on the initials of the glossary term and then explain, okay? And then begin unit 1. So what are surveys? I'm not going to read any of this, okay, because this is going to be boring, but you want to read them, okay? You want to read them. But I do find the survey data that they lectured are very helpful, because some of them, I don't even know where the survey data came from. But particularly for some of you who do qualitative research, you're going to do survey. But when people ask you fundamentals about survey, you don't want to tell people that, oh, this is very simple, you should know survey. That's, one, people are not going to like you. Two, I just don't think it's professional enough. You can't pretend everybody knows survey, because not everyone lives in an everyday setting with survey data. So you wanted to be able to explain survey data to people very well, okay? And this video does that, okay? I watched it once already, but I don't mind doing so with you again. So let's take a look at it. Let's watch it together and see what it has to say, okay? It's a quick one. Where is
survey data are a product of a systematic data collection process which produces a form of data.
Where is my volume?
Allows you to do analysis in the same way as if you had collected the data yourself. It's quite typical for these data to be collected using a standard set of questions asked to a representative sample of respondents. Most survey data are collected for a specific research purpose. Standardized information is gathered about a range of characteristics that vary. This might be done by sending out a questionnaire for respondents to complete on paper or online, or it might be completed by interviewers, either face-to-face or over the phone. This picture shows an example of 2 questions from a survey. They ask a respondent what their sex is and to rate their mental well-being on a scale of 0 to 10. Respondents are often individuals, but this too can vary, as some surveys relate to businesses, schools, households, or other units. The same information is gathered from all respondents. Individual respondents fill in the answers to the questions. Here, in this example, using the questions from the previous slide, the first female respondent has scored them.
I'll just pause really quick. I think terminologies like this, having supervised quite a few master students and also doctoral level students, 2 doctoral students, I think people sometimes make mistakes or skip important concepts like individual level data. They definitely know what is called the individual level data, but they just don't know how to put it. So I think that's pretty important. Like the cases, you have to be precise with what you're doing. You have to be able to identify them in correct terms, either in Chinese or in English. Okay, individual level data, because my setting is mostly I guess English. So I don't translate it. So, but you have to know individual level data, what it actually is. And response to survey, these are simple, but you want to know what they actually are or what they mean.
The mental well-being is 8 out of 10. Each response creates individual level data in the survey dataset, shown in this table, which collects the well-being score and sex of the first 7 respondents. Respondents' information is stored as cases in the dataset, which can be used to produce statistical summaries. We're now going to look at some examples of surveys. The first example we're going to take a closer look at is the British Social Attitude Survey. In all but 2 years since 1983, a British social attitude survey has been carried out to take an annual snapshot of public opinion on a range of key political and social issues. The survey is conducted by an organisation called the National Centre for Social Research, NatCen for short, a large independent social research agency which has a team of methodologists and a large field force of interviewers. Each year, some questions are repeated and some are new to reflect issues of concern at any time point. The survey has a lot of impact in the UK, and it's often reported in the news as a reliable source of information on shifts in public opinion. For example, over the years, it has tracked the acceptance of same-sex marriage, attitudes to austerity, and views about Brexit. The 2018 survey, for example, was funded by a number of sponsors, including the Economic and Social Research Council, government departments, and research foundations. It was designed to produce information about the opinions of adults aged 18 or over in Great Britain. To do this, a sample of potential interviewing addresses were identified, and 3,879 interviews were achieved from randomly selected adults. The survey was conducted using a computer-assisted face-to-face method at the respondent's home. Additionally, a self-completion questionnaire was left for respondents to fill in and return. Some questions are answered by all, while other questions are answered by only those who are randomly selected to answer that particular version of the questionnaire. The resulting data have been made available for reuse. Data and information about the survey can be found in the UK Data Service catalogue. This image shows how the catalogue page for the British Social Attitude Survey 2018 appears on the UK Data Service website. Another example of survey data is the Labour Force Survey. This is a household study that collects information on employment and unemployment for all those aged 16 plus and living in the UK. Data is available at both an individual and household level, and it covers a wide range of related topics such as occupation, training and hours of work, as well as demographic information and characteristics such as health and education level.
Really quick pause on that, because my takeaway from what this survey is telling me is that I think for any of you who came to the workshops today, I think one, you are coming for the SPSS, training thing and do that, but you're also coming for, I guess, a collection of research ideas. These are a collection of research ideas. If you don't have any research question, what I would do if I were you, basically that's what I did before anyways. I'm going to look at very well-known acknowledged data sets, such as this one, Labour Force Survey. Professor Tarani Chandola, who is the chair of the sociology part, I think started this year. When he hired me last year, I think he was the director of the Methods Hub, I think. Yeah, he was the director of the Methods Hub at the time. He uses this professionally for many years. Okay, a lot of topics that he has been working on are coming from this survey. And then the former one, the previous one, this one, I also think I haven't looked at it in depth. British Social Attitude Survey. I think they also, there are a lot of great things too, but as a researcher, you also have to restrain yourself from picking on too much on your plate. So that's what I'm trying to do. But this is a good survey. If you have time, you're starting from doing your own research or building up your research portfolio, look at this survey. See what they have to offer, their data, their variables, and think about the questions. And I also think I really wish I had watched this a long time ago, because I struggled when coming up with my research question because I did not know how. And it took me a while. And at some point I wanted to give up because I don't think I can do this, or I'm not smart enough. But I think, but it turned out that I'm okay. Or more than just okay. So I think these things, what looking at it today, I wish someone were told me before, which is also like this kind of like these news things, they may mean nothing to you at the moment, but I feel like all of this, acceptance of same-sex relationships slowing down in UK, slowing down, that's kind of a good, damn, that's a key term. I could be a part of a great research question. Okay, looking at it accelerates or it slows down. Right now, my mind is being set up for research terms, so I know what they are. If you are not, pay attention to that this austerity thing, our social attitudes changing, that's a damn good research question. Okay, if you use this survey, catch a bunch of paper, a bunch of variables, and have a decent research methodology and run it through SBS, bang, you could be published. That might be too quick to be true, but that's where things got started. So if I were you, coming to workshops like this, I would try to get the most out of this, okay? By looking at it, but I don't know where this come from though. I mean, this austerity also should education. So that's what you want to read. I want to say external news, not just look at your Instagram all the time, okay? It doesn't help as much as this kind of news thing. So you want to go back to this Asian things, okay? I'm gonna just stop here. I'm go over to here and let you continue, okay? So that's the British Social Survey. We were talking about this thing. Yeah, okay, I'm gonna have you keep watching this.
Is available at both an individual and household level, and it covers a wide range of related topics such as occupation, training and hours of work, as well as demographic information and characteristics such as health and education level. So what does survey data look like? If you collect data from a survey yourself, a fairly natural way to store the information is in a matrix, with records in one direction and the things that vary, the variables, in the other. And that's just what survey microdata looks like. This, for example, is what the 2015 Quarterly Labour Force Survey Open Teaching Dataset looks like in the SPSS package.
This is what we looked at just now, okay? And you're looking at it again.
Data in this format is typically referred to as microdata, as the records relate to the
It's called microdata because it has individual level observations.
original data collection units. So, if a survey gathers responses from individuals, the records will be for individuals too. The generic term for each respondent unit is a case. Statistical packages that hold data in a rectangular matrix like this typically have cases in rows and the variables in columns. The value in a cell is therefore the value for a particular variable for a specific case. It is quite common for statistical packages such as SPSS or Stata to store the values as numbers and to associate a label with that value. Other packages like R manage this differently. Some values are called missing values. These values are ones where there may be a value recorded, but it represents something we normally omit from analysis, such as did not answer or not applicable. Missing values are handled differently in different datasets and by different software. In this example from SPSS, -9 is used to represent values that are not applicable, as the question was not asked. Now we'll look at understanding variables. Good survey design uses questions that elicit useful responses and enable meaningful comparisons between groups to be made. A well-documented survey will allow you to trace back to the question that was asked to see who was asked the question and how. Some of the responses are stored in their raw form in the dataset and are easy to trace back to the question asked. For example, these images show the full-time, part-time work variable as it appears in the data file in SPSS and the information that appears in the questionnaire. It shows the response options, what the variable measures, and who the question applies to and was asked to. Other variables may instead be the result of some sort of calculation or processing after data collection was completed. These are known as derived variables, and documentation held in archives with the data should be able to help you to interpret the meaning of these variables, probably through allowing you to understand how the derived.
So if you're wondering what this is, this dialog box, recode, this is the original variable, 14 equals to 3, 15 equals to 4, into a new variable. This is recoding. Basically, we are changing the variable age, EUL, into age, EULR. Okay, this is kind of like the coding thing. Now, SPSS, I was gonna say it's not user-friendly, but I take that back because I just never used it, so I shouldn't say anything or comment on it. It's a different way of, but they make perfect sense for me. That basically when they recode this variable HEUL to HEULR, you're gonna try that a couple of times. You're gonna see a lot of errors, which is very common, but that's, I guess, everyone has to go through. I see lots of reds on my warnings on my Stata coding, but that's how I get proficient. I'm still not very, and then the value label, this is going to a new variable. It's going to be basically coding the original raw data into different brackets. If you remember what we looked at just now, the new variable right here is labeled. They are going to be in a five-year age break. 1 equals to 16 to 19, that kind of thing. And you're going to break all of them. And then the last command, the last language here called execute, basically means random, okay? That's it if you're wondering what it is, okay?
Derived variable in the data relates to the original questions asked. This may be a simple description or a flowchart. In some cases, the code is shared, and this is shown in the example here, where the SPSS syntax for the age band 12 category variable has been included. To summarize, in this video, we have described survey microdata, given an example of popular surveys in the UK, noted how the data are stored for use, and identified some of their key features.
Okay, great. So that's it. That's to get you started. Of course, like I said, there are a bunch of things that you can read and then know national represent. So you want to kind of go back to this and then maybe copy and take notes and then so that this will be a valuable module that you have done. You could even though there's no certification, but if I were you, I'm trying to build a profile for myself. I can even put this on my CV to say that I've taken the data skills module course, introduction to survey data, blah blah blah. You can do that. I think most important thing is that the drills, you know how to work on it. Two, it's always good to have something on your CV. Like this UK data servicing is apparently it's a very popular data warehouse and also training portal for many UK academias, scientists. I just don't know. I mean, Professor Chandola told me this. I don't know this, but I do have access to others for sure. Okay, so these are basically like checking your knowledge. You can do that. Okay, if you want to, I would encourage you to work on that. British social attitude, select most correct answer. You can do that and later. Okay, even if you don't do that, you can still go past. I'm just trying to show you what it is and teach the lecture, so I'm going to have you do that later on. Okay, what is the sampling? Probability, non-probability sampling. I think you want to understand what is a simple random sampling, stratified sampling, cluster sampling, because there are going to be differences of this. Okay. I liked about how they presented, like stratified sampling and also cluster sampling thing. It's very helpful here. Sample size and precision. You could also this is having to do with confidence interval, but this is kind of like a jumping the gun, looking at sample size and precision. But you can work on this yourself. But I'm trying to take you through the progress instead of jumping into the data set directly. Okay, but you can look at it. This is the research question and research example. What kind of research question can you explore using survey data? Many. Controlling additional characteristics. This is basically, as you all are aware of, this is basically many different X variables. Your Y variable will be your interested dependent variable, and your additional characteristics are going to be your independent variables. Okay, so compare data over time or across countries. Over time is going to be time series, and across countries could be cross-sectional. Okay, other types of data source, cross-sectional survey data, what it is, and then longitudinal data. We talked about it a little bit, and then absenteeism among workers in the UK. So this is using whatever data set to study that question, etc. Okay, this is a case study that I think that's helpful. So basically the study methods and findings, and then give us an example. How does this survey, labor force survey, help with this particular question called absenteeism among workers in UK? So we'll take it. It's a very short one, so we'll watch it together.
Hi, my name is Andrew Bryce. I am a research associate and a university teacher at the University of Sheffield. My research interests are in the area of health and work. And together with colleagues at the University of Sheffield and the University of York, we've been funded by the Health Foundation to undertake a program of work looking at the socio-economic value of health. So health is obviously important for its own sake, but also health can be an important asset that we can use for other socioeconomic outcomes that make a difference to other outcomes. And so our focus has been on looking at the effect of health on different work-related outcomes. One of the papers that we've been doing is looking at the effects of chronic health conditions on sickness absence in the UK. Our main method was to look at this question by looking at survey data from large household surveys, so we get a representative sample from the United Kingdom. So the survey that we decided to use was the Labour Force Survey, or the LFS, and this is one of the main surveys undertaken by the Office for National Statistics. And the reason for using this is it's a very large household survey. It's representative of all 4 countries in the UK. It has a big sample size. Also, it has very good variables on all sorts of labour market information. So it goes into quite a lot of detail about the hours that you've worked in the previous week and whether you've done your usual number of hours. And so it allows us to get quite good data on sickness absence, whether people have actually had spent less time at work than they would normally. And in fact, the LFS is the data source that is primarily used by in the literature for looking at sickness absence. Not only that, but it also has quite good data on health and disability as well. So perhaps unsurprisingly, we found that the onset of a chronic health condition increased the likelihood that a person would have some sickness absence within a given week. But perhaps the most interesting finding was that the impact of mental health was much stronger than the impact on physical health. In fact, the onset of a mental health condition made you 3 times more likely to increase sickness absence than the onset of a physical health condition. The LFS is quite a good data set to use off the shelf, if you like, downloading it directly from UK Data Service website. However, for the work that we were doing, we did need to do a little bit of extra work to make it usable. One of the things that we did was to actually access it via the secure data service rather than just straight off the website. And this enabled us to actually access more variables than we would do otherwise, because some variables, because of small sample sizes and the risk of disclosure and that kind of thing, the UK Data Service provides this under secure conditions. And so we had to be trained to become approved researchers to make sure that we could use this data in a way that would not compromise the confidentiality of the data. So that was one thing that we had to do. Another thing that we needed to do was to append together or merge together several data sets, because each LFS data set each quarter comes out separately as a separate data set to download. So it was a little. So as we did a pooled analysis across quite a number of years, we had to do some extra work to append these different data sets together to provide a much larger data set covering a period of 10 years.
So really quick on this takeaway, you probably heard it too. 2 things. Number one, he mentioned that throughout the workshops, we'll also show you that the open access data files. He mentioned the restricted data access, which is good in many ways, but you don't necessarily need them to get started. Just so you know, whatever level you are, undergraduate, master, or PhD, whatever you are, it's always good to get started with the open access. Run a bunch of regressions, have a bunch of particular ways, and then it did mention that he was able to get the restricted data access, which is essential at some point. More variables, you have to append them, make it a much larger data access, etc., which could be necessary for the serious research that you're working on, but it doesn't have to be necessary, right? So this is one of the important takeaways from this video too. I think that would be helpful for us to know.
The LFS is a great data set if you want to look at anything to do with the labor market, work, education, or health, and the relationship between those things. It is, as I said, easily accessible from the UK Data Service website. But the advice I would give is to read the documentation and be very aware of how to use the data properly. So the LFS comes with, when you download it, you don't just get the data, you get a whole lot of documentation. It seems a little bit overwhelming at first, but actually it is very important. So even just reading the questionnaire to get an idea of how people were asked the questions and what the wording was, and that might give you a little bit of insight as to how to interpret the variables that you're looking at. Look at the variable guide. Look at how derived variables have been derived and what the method was for those, and also be aware of the weights as well. So if you're doing descriptive analysis using the LFS, and this is the same for any household survey, actually you need to be weighting that analysis in order to to make sure that any biases due to sort of lack of representation, some types of people being more heavily represented in the sample than others, then the weights account for that and actually make your analysis much more robust.
Got it. So the other takeaway from this I wanted to remind you also is that we have to be very careful with the selection bias or the bias or the representation. So there is this thing called weighting thing. A lot of researchers, intermediate or beginning level, or even advanced researchers, advanced researchers, I don't think they'll ignore this, because upfront, like I'm constantly being reminded by even though I guess my former professors don't supervise me closely anymore, but we still talk. I want to say not on every day basis, but maybe every other day basis, because we still collaborate. And then even there's time difference, it doesn't matter. I only moved here shortly a year ago, so we still are in touch. They keep reminding me this. They said, Dean, whatever you're doing, like you have to think about your sample weighting and then your bias from upfront. Like for example, the serious question I'm looking at right now, they asked me to identify layers of selection bias, like by saying layers of selection bias, meaning that there's going to be bias in my data set for sure, but I have to think about it repetitively for different layers. I have to be able to clarify that, lay them out right in front, and then before I can move forward with any discussion, because otherwise it's just going to make things even more messier in the process. Okay, so this is easy because we'll show you where to find data, data archives, data providers, and there are lots of them, data producers. So I do want to point out one thing though. If you don't already know, this inter-university consortium for political and social research, that is going to be very helpful for you in many years that are to come, probably lifelong. Okay, this is, like I said, sponsored by the University of Michigan. Well, it's in the at University of Michigan. So this is called what's this called? Inter-University Consortium for Political and Social Science Research. So you're gonna find lots of data here. There is a lot of teaching and research in there. Summer program there too. Shared data. There are lots of them here. You can find them. Statistics, popular search terms, etc. Restricted use data. That's what the author was talking about. Most downloadable, like National Longitudinal Survey of Adolescents or Adult Health. There are lots of them you can have access to here for sure. So do that if you haven't already paid attention to this. So I would want to save this and do that for sure. Okay. And then other countries, I mean, I don't know. You can check them out if you have time or want to. But I think this UK data service and also this United States Inter-University Consortium for Political Science, Political and Social Research is already enough for many reasons. Okay, so so that's that. I'm gonna move on to Unit 2. This is introduction to data, but let's do this. Let's not take a break, but also take a break. I mean, I guess, there are lots of them to do, but I think I would encourage you to do this and then take a break, okay? So this data set I will be using is called this quarterly labor force data. So if you click on that, go over here, you'll be able to see this. I'm going to jump the gun just by telling you, because they're going to lecture a lot by afterwards by going over. I'm just going to show you where to get the data. Two things. One, if you're accessing data, just click on access data, okay? Click on access data and then download SPSS, and that's it. Okay, it's that easy. If you are a Stata person, now it's going to be a zip file, but you have to unzip it afterwards. If you are going to be a Stata person, you can download that too, but just click on that. Now, the next thing you need, okay, the next thing you need is not going to be resources, it's going to be documentation. Basically, this is going to help you know what you are doing. User guide, which is something I showed you just now. Data archive information, you can read it, have a good understanding, but they are not necessary, okay? So this is what I showed you just now, the data set, just to get you started. But most importantly, it's going to be this data set teaching manual, okay? This helps you to know everything about this user guide, all right? Okay, I'm gonna have you take a break because I need to. A quick break. You can download it, get it organized, including this user guide, and put them in a file. And then we'll come back in about 5 minutes and we'll continue. And then we'll load it. We'll do a quick cup of exploration with the data. And then we'll also explore SPSS. If you haven't already explored it at all, you trust me, it's going to be very straightforward and simple and easy. Okay, so we'll just do that when we come back from. So I jumped the gun and showed you how. No, we're not going to watch the this video because we don't have to. We already downloaded it. And then this thing we can jump it over to, but I'll still talk about it a little bit just so you know what is going on. Okay. Alrighty, let's take a break and get a snack if you need to, and then we'll come back in a little bit. Okay, 5 minutes, we'll come back. I'll just go use the restroom. All right, I'm gonna move on. And then as you come back, I mean, we can keep talking about it. So we are using SPSS and then PSPP. I honestly don't know what it is. I never used it, but I wouldn't bother because yeah, because it's not necessary. We have SPSS, why bother? And then R is a free software. But you need to learn to code in R, which we will do in the spring if you decide to come back and continue in the workshop series. But I do encourage you as a social science student yourself, and then I'm also social science. I'm applied educational economist. So I believe as data is still very applicable, particularly on say on job market. Okay, academia job market too. I mean, yeah, it's not going to be difficult with the data. Okay, don't get intimidated. You just have to spend a lot of time wondering around what's going on. Syntax is going to be not so easy to pick up right away. But can you help me close the door if you don't mind? Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. But I feel SPSS syntax is a little bit more challenging than Stata, but maybe I'm wrong because I haven't used SPSS for too long. But like I said, we can do point and click for now and then see what happens afterwards, okay? So we don't need too much introduction to SPS. I already look at it. It has a system of drop-down menus. Let me just show you what does that mean by drop-down menus. Basically, this is drop-down menus, okay? Nothing fancy. This is drop-down menus. This is the window, the dialog window for the commands, for the syntax. This is the drop-down menu. Yeah, if you look at this, this is it. A lot of them are going to be done under data. For example, you're going to weight them. You're going to merge files. They're going to be transformed. Remember, we talked about recode. You can do that. Analyze, descript statistics, lots of them, okay? But we'll follow the instructions. We'll do that one step at a time. Drop-down menus, lots of them. And then, so let's take a look at if you have done SPS, wonderful. If you haven't, I think this is a good thing to get you started on SPS. But either way, I think it's not going to be a waste of time if we look at it together one more time, okay?
In this short demo video, we will introduce you to some of the key features of SPSS. We will show you how to open a dataset in SPSS, save your dataset, access data analysis options, and conduct a simple descriptive analysis using the menu and syntax. When you open SPSS, you will be met with the welcome screen. Here, you can open recent files, create a new dataset, or select another file to open. The dataset I'm using for this example is the Quarterly Labour Force Survey 2015 Open Teaching dataset. So I'm going to select this from the recent files and double-click now to open it.
This is what we have. Once you have that data set, you can open it, just double click, you can do that right away, okay?
You may want to open a dataset from within SPSS, and the easiest way to do this is to use the folder button at the top left. You can also open data by clicking on the File tab, hovering over Open, and clicking Data. Also underneath the File tab, you will find the option to save the dataset with the Save button, and save the dataset with a new name using the Save As button. It's usually good practice to resave a copy of the dataset you're planning to work with, so you always have the original version to revert back to if needed. Additionally, renaming datasets can make it clearer which data you're working with, especially if you're working with data from multiple years of a survey. The File tab also gives you the option to create a new dataset by clicking on File, hovering over New, and selecting Data, as well as a new syntax file, once again under File, New, and then Syntax. We'll discuss syntax more later in the video. Once you have the dataset open in SPSS, there are two ways you can choose to view it. In the bottom left-hand corner of the SPSS window, you will find two tabs, which you can use to switch between the two view options, Variable View or Data View. Usually, datasets will automatically open under the Variable View option. In this view, variables are stored in rows, with column headers for different information about the variable. These columns contain information such as the variable type, missing values, and a label which offers some information on what the variable measures. Please note that this dataset is a teaching dataset, and so only has 14 variables, whereas most datasets will have many more. There are a few important things to note when viewing the data in Variable View. First of all, the difference between the name column and the label column. The first column in the dataset has the header name. This is what the variable is called and how it is usually referred to during the analysis. For example, the variable that measures employment status has the label STAT3R. The fifth column in the dataset, with the heading label, contains the variable label, a few words that describe what the variable represents or measures. For example, this is where we can find out that the variable with the STAT3R name is the variable that measures employment status. Secondly, we need to be cautious with the variable measure. The 10th column in the dataset contains the variable measure. These measures are automatically assigned to the variable by SPSS, and this isn't always accurate. It's good practice to assign a variable measure based on your own assessment or by looking in the data documentation. Finally, the missing column. The 7th column is the missing column, and this tells you the missing values for the variable and how they have been coded. I'm now going to switch to the Data View tab. In contrast to the Variable View tab, in Data View, each row represents one respondent's answers to the survey questions. In this tab, the variables are represented along the top in the column headers, and their names correspond to the ones in the Variable View tab. While most analysis in SPSS is conducted from the Variable View tab, the Data View tab can be useful when looking for anomalies or trying to understand your data further. I'm now going to switch back to the Variable View tab to demonstrate how to do some analysis. In order to begin analyzing data in SPSS, click on the Analyze tab on the toolbar at the top of the screen. Under this tab, you can select various forms of analysis such as descriptive statistics, correlations, and linear regressions. The most commonly used option is descriptive statistics. This option allows you to explore frequencies and measures of central tendency, as well as produce crosstabs among other options. Producing descriptive statistics is usually the first step in exploring a dataset. I'm now going to demonstrate how to generate some descriptive statistics for an example variable. To get these, make sure you are under the Analyze tab, hover over where it says Descriptive Statistics, and click on Descriptives. The Descriptives window will open with the blank Variables pane on the right and a list of all the variables in the left-hand pane. SPSS automatically displays the variables by their labels, but to make it easier to find the variable you are looking for, you can right-click and select Display Variable Names. Under this menu, there is also the option to sort the variables alphabetically or by file or measurement level. Additionally, if you start to type the name of the variable in, this should also take you to it in the list. So now we're going to select the variable we would like to analyze from the list and move it over to the Variables pane.
Just a friendly reminder, you don't have to do any of that she suggested, but it's going to be helpful. But here's the thing, I would oftentimes keep a variable descriptive file alongside me, and then whenever I need to select a variable, I wouldn't always know what's going on. For example, the very first one, age, I can guess it has something to do with age, but I wouldn't know specifically what it is about. But as a professional researcher yourself, particularly if you're at the advanced level, I would encourage you to have a handout convenient by your side so you can refer to it anytime you need to, because it's very important to keep reminding yourself what the heck are you looking at. Okay, very important. But the trick she provided, right click on it, sort by variable names, are going to be helpful. But even that, I wouldn't say I'll feel 100% secure without I actually know the user manual variable, exactly what they are. Okay, I don't want to take any wild guess because this is a serious conduct.
This can be done by either double-clicking on the variable name or by using the arrow button between the two panes. The variable we are going to analyze for this example is the total hours worked variable. So I'm going to select this and move it over using the arrow. To get the results, we'll click on the OK button. Alternatively, you can click on the Paste button to paste the syntax for this command into a new syntax window. We'll discuss this more later in the video. For now, I'm going to click the OK button and a new window will open with the results. This is the output window.
Okay,
The requested descriptive statistics will appear in a table.
let's do that really quick together, just so that we don't listen to her all the time. Just do exactly what she did. Data overview. We're also going to analyze the total hours of work together. Let's see if you can get that. Very easy. Go into data, go into analyze, go into descriptive statistics, go into descriptives. We're going to analyze total hours work. You can do the practice yourself, okay? I'm doing it, but don't just see me doing it. You do it yourself. You could right click on it, display variable names. That's one way. Display variable labels. That's another way. Sort alphabetically if you want to. Sort by file order. That's kind of like the original order, what it is, okay? Just starting from name, new random ID, etc., etc. So if you go over to data view, that's kind of like where it started, okay? Case ID. If you click on display variable name, see that? This is exactly the sequence as it shows in the very first label row, okay? It's not an actual row. It's not even row 1. It's the label, okay? This is how it gets done. All right, so anyways, I did a couple of practice as what it tells me to. You should do the same, okay? And then let's say this. Let's say this is very simple. You would be thinking, why am I doing this? Because it's essential. You could either double click on this. It went over there. If you click on this going back button, it's going to go back, okay? This is kind of like, you know, the trick. Double click on that. If I just click on that right away, okay? If you paste this, this is going to paste into a dialog box, okay? This is going to paste a dialog box. That's the magic thing about SPSS. It is going to be showing you the syntax, okay? You're gonna do the mean, this variable. If you click on run, let's say what it is. It comes up with this, okay? If you click on paste, it's going to come up with that. So so SPS is very helpful and friendly, easy to pick up on. You don't need any instructor, including me, okay? You can learn it. If you're genuinely interested in this, it's very helpful. You paste into this dialog box, you click on run, no one has to teach you anything. Bang, it comes out with that. Now, the other way, alternatively to do this is, where is it? That's the syntax, okay? That's the syntax box, okay? Let's going back to this. Let's do it another way. It's also the same thing. Analyze, descriptive statistics, descriptives, okay, same thing, okay. This is still here, so I don't have to do anything. If I click on okay, folks, it's going to come up with this the same way. Now, what it's different is that it did not give me this syntax box, which I don't need, okay? I don't need this syntax box, but does this syntax box make sense to you? If you look at it, does that make sense to you? Descriptives, variables equals to this, that's what you're analyzing. And then statistics equals to mean, standard deviation, mean and max. So what do you want? You want this variable equals to that. Now, this will be helpful, folks. This will be helpful if you control copy. This will be helpful if you're going to be doing other variables, okay? If you're going to doing the other variable, you don't have to go back and forth. You can put in variables yourself and do it. So that's what the syntax is for, to code it multiple times. Does that make sense? All right, well, this is very elementary, so I don't want to bore you too much with that. So, but I'm just gonna take this out. Okay, this is syntax. I'm gonna cancel. Okay, we'll keep the syntax here for now. But this is exactly identical, the same thing. One of them doing so through syntax, the other one is doing so through point and click. That's it. Let's go back to the video really quick and see where is the video. Let's see where it is, okay? We're almost there.
In the first column, we can see the number of valid cases for this variable. In this case, this is 13,471. The fourth column of the table shows us that the mean number of hours worked is 31.68. This table also gives us the standard deviation and the minimum and the maximum values. All outputs you produce in SPSS can be saved for future access by using the Save icon on the top left of the toolbar. The same analysis can also be done using syntax. To do this, click on the File tab, hover over New, and select Syntax. This will open a new syntax file in a new window. Type descriptives. SPSS will suggest autofill options, which I'm going to click on now, followed by the name of the variable you want the descriptives for. So I'm going to type TOTHRS. Remember to end your line with a full stop. Then press the green play button in the toolbar. A new output window should open with the same output you got using the previous menu-driven method. It's usually a good idea to save any syntax so you can rerun your analysis at a later date or look back at your previous work. This video has shown you how to open a dataset in SPSS, what this looks like, and how you can start to explore and analyze data.
All right, so this is very helpful. I think it's going to be great if you could actually keep practicing on this a couple more times. And then what it mentioned, the syntax file is exactly the same as do file in Stata. Okay, I don't think there's a Stata on this computer, so I don't think so. Let's see if there is one. There is R. Yeah, there's no Stata because Stata is kind of expensive. It is expensive, but I would encourage you, given that you are signed up for the workshops, so you don't need to spend that much time anyways, like 2 hours or something. I mean, another hour after you finish this with me, just finish this, do the questions, and because I did it, I think, one, I'm a lot older than you. Two, I am proficient in doing this social analysis research thing already for quite a few years now, given this is my job, and I like it. And then I've done this, so I don't think it's going to be a waste of time of yours to do it. So I would encourage you to do it now that you sign up on this. Okay, so the summary basically, is what we did. So we're going to have this unrestricted access teaching data sets. What they mentioned, the restricted data set, you can have access to that later on only if you need it. This is very important. Types of variables. You have to understand what it actually is, okay? Nominal variable, ordinal variable, but this is a statistic class, what that is doing, okay? But you have to understand. But I would encourage you to see the examples, okay? Nominal is marital status, yes and no. Nationality, China, Hong Kong, mainland China, Hong Kong SAR, Macau SAR, etc., United States, whatever it is. Level of education, this could be continuous. Okay, that's ordinal variable. You have to know what they are. Don't pretend or think that you know this very well already, but you want it to be 100% clear on that, because it's gonna have to do with coding categorical variables for sure. Okay. Like this is what type of school it is, and then there are many other ways to do this too. Likert scales, are we familiar with Likert scale? Yes. How many of you are not? Are we good with Likert scale? Basically, I would oftentimes ask you a question like, on a scale of 1 to 10, how strongly willingly are you to participate in a workshop? I guess, on average, you guys probably will be a 5 or 6 because you don't know what this is about. You don't know how this is going to help you. This is not for credits, but we're running it because we are running it. I mean, for me, I like to do it because I get paid. Two, this is kind of like, what I enjoy doing anyways. So it's better to have audience than to talk to myself. But for you, I don't know, on a Likert scale, for me, I would choose 1, very satisfied, because I like to come to the workshop. This is part of my job. I don't do this a lot, like once a week. I am okay with it. So this is Likert scale on a scale of 1 to 10, on a scale 1 to 5. Oftentimes it's a 1 to 7. If you design your own survey, grade, you could also do this, okay? Continue to check your understanding. This is basically like you can think about this. So now why don't you tell me this? Which type of school does your oldest child attend? This from 1 to 9, are they nominal or ordinal or continuous? Anyone? What are they? Is this nominal or ordinal? You want to take a guess on that? Well, let's go back to this. You don't want to say anything yet. So this is going to be a nominal variable, no natural order. Ordinal variable has a natural order. Now, let me ask you this. Does this have a natural order or it doesn't? It doesn't, right? It's just different types of school. Look at this. It doesn't have, it's just like it doesn't have any natural order. Like which country are you from? There are a bunch of them. So they are what? Do you think they are nominal? They are. Okay, you want to practice on this, okay? And then the second part, how much did your family pay in school fees in previous year? This is obviously a continuous variable, okay? Because it's actually going to be in a numerical value. GBP means Great Britain pounds, okay? And then how satisfied? This is continuous, so it's going to be ordinal, okay? Completely. This is on a Likert scale from 1 to 5. All right. I'm actually going to have you do a survey in 20 minutes to just see how helpful this is for you. Do you have any specific advice? So we know what's going on. Okay. I don't want to pretend that I've done everything exactly to your taste, but I also wanted to make sure I learned from YouTube. Okay, so this is unit 9 response, item 9 response. This is talking about missing data. How do you deal with that? But I guess we're gonna skip that. We're gonna go over to data analysis right away. So in data analysis, in doing data, we obviously going to talk about distribution like frequency, height. We look at distribution because we wanted to find the mean and max, central tendency, the mode, which values are the most common, and also the range. So it gives us idea of the descriptive analysis, the counts, percentage, frequency tables. These are what we wanted to find out. But I'm just clicking this through because I'm giving you ideas of what to do, and we do a couple of practices, but I want you to actually go through this carefully enough on your own with your own pace. Okay, so frequency table for categorical variables, it looks like that. Interpreting frequency table, percentage of valid percent. I want to point out to this valid percent. This is valid percent is not just going to be average. This is going to be only for the ones who actually answer the question. Doesn't include the one as missing. Okay, so there are a couple of different ways of doing that. So how do we create a frequency table in SPSS? Let's watch this demo and let's do the practice ourselves. Okay, let's do it as a practice ourselves and then see how it works. It's a very quick one.
Frequency tables are a common way of summarizing the distribution of your data. In this follow-along example, we'll show you how to create a frequency table using SPSS. Once again, we're going to use the Labour Force Survey Open Teaching dataset.
Same
Open this
dataset.
dataset in SPSS and make sure you have the data open in variable view. For this example, we're interested in looking at the variable with the name HIQUL15D, which measures respondents' highest educational qualification. Before we create this frequency table, we're first going to explore the variable to understand the categories it has. To do this, go to the value column and click on the box with the values in, and then on the 3 dots that appear to the right-hand side. This will open the value labels window. Scroll down or increase the size of the window by dragging the bottom corner to allow you to see the full list of values. From this, we can see that the labels are as follows. 1 is degree or equivalent. 2 is higher education. 3 is GCE, A-level or equivalent. 4 is GCSE, grades A.
You can change the label as you wish. When you do your own research, it's your research. You can change it however you want it to, as long as it makes your explanation and interpretation easier. That's the key, okay? You can change it however you want to. I oftentimes wouldn't, and I would stick to whatever the data set provides for the convenience of being consistent. And if something went wrong, I can always go back to the original file. That's how I would actually do it.
Starter C or equivalent. 5 is other qualifications. 6 is no qualifications, and 7 is don't know. There are also the missing values -8 and -9, which indicate those who gave no answer or who the question didn't apply. To explore the distribution.
And just so you know, sometimes when you have a data that doesn't apply or no answer, I've seen a lot of those. Sometimes in Stata or in SPSS, it could be ... or sometimes it could be 999999999. Okay, that's kind of like, you know, just so you know, if you see some of that in a raw data set, that's what it is.
Distribution of these values within this variable, we're going to look at their frequencies. To do this, I'm going to click on the Analyze tab at the top of the screen, hover over Descriptive Statistics, and then select Frequencies. The Frequencies window will open with a list of all the variables in the left-hand pane and the blank Variables pane on the right. Select the variable you would like to analyze from the list and move it over to the Variables pane. This can be done by either double-clicking on the variable name or by using the arrow button between the two panes. The variable we are going to explore is the highest qualification variable, so I'm going to select this and move it over to the right-hand pane, and then click on the OK button. A new output window will open with the results.
Okay, let's do that right away together. Okay, folks, let's do that together and see what it is. Okay, you have the data set, you have your laptop. Let's do that together. You still remember how to do it, right? So we go over to variable table. We're gonna look at this variable, highest qualification group, and then we're gonna look at that. If we click on that, this is what's going on. Okay, what the video showed us is that if you click on any of that, it's gonna give you this value. Like I said, you can change the value or the label if you want to, but we don't have to. All right, now the key is you go over to, remember where will you go again? You go over to, do you go over to data or transform or analyze? Analyze, yes, okay. Analyze descriptive statistics, frequencies, is that right? Frequencies, correct? What you do, go over to the highest qualification ever, okay? And then you could either click on this arrow, the right direction points arrow, or double click on that. I'm lazy, so I'm just gonna double click on that. The next thing I do is, remember there are two ways to do so. If you really want to learn the syntax, which I think you can and you should, if you don't want to overwhelm yourself for now, you can just click on OK, okay? But anyway, this is very user-friendly. Don't rush anything. I see the roster, so I know when you sign up, many of you are undergrads, some of you are first year PhD. Even if you're a PhD, don't rush yourself over. Don't ever think this is simplistic. There were a time period when I was in my PhD program, I thought, oh, I am very smart. I'm at a, one of the greatest schools in the world. I can do everything. So the simplistic stuff, I oftentimes want to ignore. And guess what? In my third year or fourth year journey, I find myself stuck. What I need to do is actually go back to the first day I got started, okay? And really, it's going to be the fundamental statistics thing that really helped me, I guess, accelerating my research progress, because there was a time I felt too overconfident about myself. I can do rocket science, but I couldn't, okay? It's going to be the fundamental thing that really helps me. And then what I'm doing today at University of Hong Kong, teaching, I think I am teaching the fundamental stuff, but that's actually going to be my job perpetually, okay? And then that's also what's going to take us a long way, like me and my colleagues. When I share this experience with my senior colleagues, like Professor Tendola, he agrees with me 100%. So nothing too simple. Click on that. That's it. That's what the video asks us to do. Okay. Now there are going to be a lot of things we can analyze. All of this frequency table for sure. Okay. But that's I guess that's going to be a story later on. Let's finish up this video and then we'll let you do it. Okay.
At the top of the output, we can see the number of valid and missing cases included in the analysis. In this case, we can see that there are 20,005 valid cases and 2,423 missing. Below this, we can see the requested frequency table. This table has the column headers frequency, percent, valid percent, and cumulative percent.
Quick question, do you still remember the valid percent? What does the valid percent mean? There is a percent, there is also a valid percent. What's the difference? The difference is, for the percent, it includes the missing variables. Okay, for the valid percent, it doesn't include the missing variables. Okay, this is the one of the questions from check your answer understanding thing under the UK data service thing. Okay, again, if you want to do this and benefit and make the most out of these sessions, couple workshops, follow through the exercises closely. Don't miss a single bit or question, whatever level you are on. Okay, if you are undergrads, you're gonna benefit yourself tremendously. Particularly when you apply to a lot of people say, I applied to grad school, I failed, no one's gonna admit me. Why? Well, because you're not prepared. I mean, how to get prepared? These are the things you get prepared. Okay, I don't think it's gonna be Einstein's job to get into grad school. As long as you do the job, you can get in somewhere.
And gives us these values for the valid cases. It also tells us the frequency and percent for the missing values. If we look at the first row of this table, for example, we can see that 5,224 of the cases have a degree or equivalent as their highest educational qualification, and this is 26.1% of the valid cases. Now return to the survey module and do the quiz to test your understanding of frequency tables.
And if you look at the data outputs, to be honest, if you look at the data output, like the one we did just now, the valid percent is always going to be higher or lower than the percent. Anything? It's always going to be higher, correct? Because you are excluding the number of missing variables. So your percentage value actually goes up. Does that make sense? These are the things you can interpret or write in your research outcomes, make it a point. Okay, it's actually not necessarily I want to say redundant. This is actually a necessary discovery. Okay, all right. So that's the frequency thing. I'm going to stop on that. Check your understanding. They are going to be the questions. So I would encourage you just to do that yourself. Mean and standard deviations. So let's look at this. Generate descriptors for a continuous variable in SPSS. Let's learn this one too together.
This short demo video will show you how to calculate descriptive statistics for a continuous variable. In the first video in this module, Introduction to SPSS, we showed you how to generate descriptive statistics for a variable. In this demo video, we'll show you how to do this using a shortcut and syntax. To quickly generate a mean and standard deviation for a variable, use the descriptive statistics command. A quick way to do this is to right-click on the variable you want to look at, and then click on descriptive statistics. So for example, if I right-click on the TOTHRS variable, and then select descriptive statistics, this will open the descriptive statistics in a new output window. The statistics table shows the number of valid and missing cases in the analysis, and the mean, which is 31.68, the median, the standard deviation, which is 17.602, the range, and the minimum and maximum values. These statistics can also be generated by using syntax. To do this, go to the File tab at the top of the screen, hover over where it says New, and then click on Syntax. This will open a new syntax window. In previous examples in this module, we have used the descriptors command to generate descriptive statistics, which gives us the mean, minimum, maximum, and standard deviation. And you could type this in here if you wanted to. However, as we're interested in mean and standard deviation particularly, I'm going to demonstrate how we can use the means command to generate just these. To do this, type means, followed by the variable name, in this case, TOTHRS, and then a full stop. Now click the green play button at the top of the screen. This will generate a new output window with two tables. One, which shows the cases included in the analysis and the missing cases excluded. This is called the case processing summary table. So here we see that 13,471 cases were included in the analysis, and 8,957 missing cases were excluded. The other table output is the report table. The first column shows the mean hours worked in the reference week, in this case 31.68, and the second shows the number of valid cases, and the third the standard deviation, which is once again 17.602. You should now know how to generate a mean and standard deviation for a continuous variable in SPSS using shortcuts and syntax.
So a bunch of ways to do this: shortcuts or syntax. Shortcut means point of click. Okay, let's do a quick practice. Just basically, I'm repeating what she has done. That's it. Okay. Going over to, so one of the quick ways I think I would totally agree would be just right click on it and then click on descriptive statistics, and that's it. It gives us everything. Okay. You don't have to go over to the syntax part yet, but if you want to, as she has said, the instruction said, go over to new syntax. Okay. If you means and then the variable. Now we have to be careful with this because we wanted to make sure we know the variable's spelling correctly. Otherwise, it's not going to be correct. So let's go means. Okay, and then the variable name TOTHRS, a full stop, and then click on run. That's it. Okay. Case processing summary, you get it. This is the report. All right. So I would encourage you to do that yourself afterwards. Okay. Because this is like I showed you, there's no myth, but practice. But you may forget this. But you come back to it. Okay, that's the most important thing. All right, interpreting a mean, I don't have to teach you that. Standard deviation, you think about it. I mean, read it if you want to. These are very, very helpful. I read it. I think this is very helpful. I don't need to take a statistics class. I can just take this. I think they're very helpful. That's why I find this data survey thing pretty useful to me. Okay, all right. This is the survey design and bias. So anything that have to do with this population sample thing, whether you can make generalization about it or not, has to do with this. Okay, so this is to check your understanding. Adjust bias, making the sample more representative of the population. So make a read of that. Understand what is weighting. Okay, why weights are needed. This is for you to think about it. But let's take a look at the weighting together, because again, I think it's very important for you to know what weighting is to tell a story.
Weighting is used to make datasets more representative of the population that the data are supposed to measure. Many datasets include survey weights. This short video introduces key points about using weights for survey data. Why use weights? Surveys usually collect information from a sample of the population with the aim of inferring information about the population as a whole. To enable inference to the population, survey designers use random sampling methods to try to generate a representative sample, and use survey weights to adjust sample data to make it better represent the population. Let's explore some different kinds of weights, starting with design weights. One reason for weighting data is that common sampling methods mean members of a population can have different chances of being selected to take part. For example, surveys in the UK often draw a sample from a list of addresses called the postcode address file. To get a sample of individuals, we first sample addresses and then select individuals at random from each address. Using this sample design, individuals who live alone are more likely to be sampled than those who live with others. For example, if there is one person in a household, they have a 1 in 1 chance of being selected. However, if there are 2 people in a household, they have a 1 in 2 chance of being selected. By using these known differences in the probabilities of being selected, we can calculate design weights to adjust the sample to make it better represent the population. Weights can also help to compensate for survey non-response, and these are called non-response weights. Not everyone sampled will take part in the survey. Some people cannot be contacted and others refuse to take part. Response rates can vary systematically across groups in the population. That is, certain subgroups may be more or less likely to respond to the survey or certain questions in it. Non-response weights use information about response rates for subgroups to adjust data and limit potential bias. We can also use weights to adjust the sample to reflect key population proportions. Known as post-stratification or calibration weights, they use information from sources such as the UK Census to improve the accuracy and precision of population estimates, and they're often used by statistical agencies. For example, here we can see a theoretical sample which is 56% women and 44% men. After adjusting with post-stratification weights, this better represents the population with 51% women and 49% men. Let's take a closer look at how weights work. The weighting variable contains a value for each case, which indicates whether the case should be weighted during analysis. Underrepresented cases have higher weights to make them count more, and overrepresented cases have lower weights to make them count less. For example, you might find higher weights for individuals that live in larger households or for those coming from population groups underrepresented in the sample due to either chance or non-response. This image shows the weighting variables for individuals in the British Social Attitude Survey 2016 dataset. The values that we can see are either over 1, such as 1.2732, or between 0 and 1, such as 0.5518. Methods for using weights vary by statistical software, but usually involve indicating the name of the weighting variable before or as part of the analysis. For example, this image shows the weight cases box in SPSS, with the dataset weighted by entering the weighting variable. Why is weighting important? Results can vary between weighted and unweighted analysis. This example illustrates the difference between weighted and unweighted results from the Quarterly Labour Force Survey 2015. These charts show the proportion of individuals in each area or government office region. In particular, look at the difference between the unweighted and weighted data for the percentage of individuals in London. In this first graph, which is unweighted, the percentage in London is around 11%. After weighting, however, this figure is around 13%. Weighted results are more representative of the population because biases have been minimized by applying the weight. Weights can also be used to make the sample look the same size as the population. Known as grossing weights, they can help us describe the prevalence of social phenomena. For example, with the Crime Survey for England and Wales, they help us describe rates of crime. This example from the 2016-2017 data shows the number of respondents reporting bike theft in the previous 12 months. The unweighted sample gives a frequency of 393, and after weighting, this increases to over 596,000, which is an estimate of the total number of people who had a bike stolen in the previous 12 months. Now we'll look at some documentation and further reading. You will find information about the weights in the documentation that comes with the data. The user guide should give you details about which weight to use and when, and this can be found under the Documentation tab in the catalogue entry. Sometimes you will find multiple weights and will need to establish which to use for your analysis. For example, the Health Survey for England datasets contain a weight for use with the core interview data and weights for analysis of the follow-up stages. All the information about these weights and when to use them is in the user guide. This video has given an introduction to survey weights. To explore this topic further, you can read our detailed What is Weighted guide, and we also have guides to the main statistics software, which include instructions for applying weights.
Okay, like I said, I'm gonna have the department send you the documentation thing, but you could actually, if I were you, I wouldn't wait on that. I would just do so myself, because if you want to become a good student or a good researcher, you have to be proactive and then yourself. Okay, like honestly, graduate school, the professors I study with are amazing ones, but how much time do I spend with them? Do they actually handhold me? No. If I were asking them to handhold me, they won't accept me from the beginning. You are independent. You're yourself. Even at the undergrad level, the most you can make out of the college is up to you. Okay, so I wouldn't wait on anyone. I would actually just be self-dependent. If I really stuck and don't have a question, I would send a very detailed email to the professor and asking, these are my questions, help me. That's it. But you don't want to take, it's not like he or she doesn't have time for you. It's like he or she are helped by themselves too. Okay, so you can ask me questions, but I'm not gonna walk you step by step, because this is not elementary school. Okay, but if I were you, these is what's most helpful to learn from any colleagues or scholars. Okay, this documentation tells you everything about weighting, and weighting, trust me, is going to be very important when it comes to research outcome explanation. Okay, so even you design your own survey, I think this documentation tells you so much. Okay, the statistics reviewer, etc. I would actually just weighting your data in SPS or what it is. I would learn everything about it, and it's better than me making it for you for sure. Okay, all right, so that's that. And then using weights with the data, you can do applying weights into data. These are step by step, and do that. And then you're going to have weights. But the most important thing is kind of like, know what to do, like how do you interpret the the table itself. Okay, so this is one activity and exercise, but I don't think we'll have time to do this. We're at Unit 4, so we don't have time to finish up this, but we'll start this, I guess, first thing in the next session. But before you go, my boss, Professor Tarani Chandola, did ask me to do this with you, and then you can help me with it. Okay. Otherwise, I have to email it to you. Okay. Let me download it. Just that, basically, just this survey thing really quick. I think it helps him too, because he has to know what are we gonna do this for next year. So, oh, okay. So let me enlarge it to. Can you use your cell phone to scan it? And then there should be questions. I'm gonna try that too. And then just complete the survey really quick for us, and that will be highly appreciated. You can say good or bad things either way. I don't care. I mean, whatever advice you can provide, it will be very helpful. Okay, just scan this. Yeah, you can scan this. Click on it. It will be gorgeous. Yeah, it's a survey, but it's not really about me. So you can answer the question. Choose it. 5 minutes or something like that. And I read it myself the best, but you can do whatever you want. Okay. Very generic. I don't even know the question copyright. Particularly for the open app question, what else do you want from this session? More examples? But that would be a problem because then we have to give a plan, whatever. Better, the more information you put, the more helpful it will be to for the next 3 sessions. Okay. But after you do that, you're free to go. And then my email is Dean, my American name, Dean He at hku.hk. Okay, so that's it. And then thank you for coming. I know it's lunchtime and then you committed to this. So I'll do my best to make the workshops not like interesting to you, but helpful to you. I guess, by providing you as much as I can in terms of the information. But like I said, I can't handhold, but I hope it's worth your time. Okay. All right. If you have questions, feel free to ask afterwards. Other than that, you are good to go. Okay. And I'll see you whenever the next workshop session is. I'm sure the department will remind you, will email you again.